We pray for our first responders, our medical professionals on the front line during this pandemic. We ask a shield of protection on our city today. Give this board of mayor and commissioners wisdom and guidance as we strive to make the right decisions for our community. Bless our city manager and our staff and employees and those in our listening audience today. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Motion to receive and file the call letter that we each received for this special meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion to receive and file the minutes of our regular meeting on April 9th, 2020.
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like.
That would be a special meeting on April 19th. Could you just reflect that in the record?
Did I not say that?
No, you said regular.
It's on here, so it does say special meeting. Thank you. Hearings reports. Commissioners, anything? Commissioner Clark?
Mayor, if you don't mind, I wrote a little statement last night that I'd like to read, and I don't know if you guys can hear me or not. It's red. Okay, I'll just turn it.
Absolutely.
I hit the button and it's not turning green. Okay, well, I'll just stand here. It's no big deal. So, I just wanted to take a second to commend you, this commission, the city manager, and all of our staff. The last few weeks have been hard. I think we can all agree on that. We've had to have conversations and facing decisions that none of us are taking lightly. We have no frame of reference in this crisis. We don't know exactly what we're facing. Beyond that, we can't say for certain how long this crisis will affect us, how long we can expect it to last, or if we can anticipate any relief on a state or federal level. In spite of all of that, we are collectively getting prepared. So thank you for recognizing that these days are hard on our citizens. Our small businesses are shuttered. Many simply cannot pay their utility bills, their property, and net profits taxes. Thanks to you for recognizing that the government is not in the business of making a profit. There's no magic pot of money that keeps police on the streets, firefighters at the ready, and water in our pipes without that revenue. I appreciate that each of you is dedicated to protecting the health and safety of our employees and our citizens. I'm grateful that this group is committed to ensuring our citizens continue to receive top quality services. To our employees who will provide those services with likely fewer bodies and less resources, thank you as well. I realize that sounds hollow when we are looking at a dire budget that includes reducing benefits, cutting staff, but these are the days we're living in. You are appreciated, and you are valued more than we can express. Even in the best days, we couldn't pay you what you're worth. It is my sincere hope that in the days to come, we will get a clearer picture of exactly what we are facing. I know finance is working diligently to model how this crisis affects our budget, and we will be able to make better decisions with actual numbers in front of us. I will challenge this commission and staff, as I usually do. Be bold, think outside of the box. We are governing in unprecedented days, and we were chosen to lead our citizens through this. While much of this is out of our hands, I'm thankful to share this platform, even if I'm on the floor today. I'm thankful to share this platform with you. I pray for each of you daily. I know how heavy all of this weighs on me, and I know it does on you as well. So I just wanted to take a minute just to say thanks to all of you and to all the staff and city manager. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Clark. Anyone else?
I just want to ask the city manager a question for the record. Do any of our first responders lack protective equipment that you know of?
No, none of our first responders lack protective equipment, specifically from the day-to-day challenges that they have before, pre-COVID. Absolutely not. It has been a challenge locally and nationally on some of the new requirements, the N95 masks, et cetera. But we do have those assets in place now through the diligent work of people on the staff and getting lines on how to get that equipment and that PPE. We meet all the national fire standard requirements for equipment to protect our firefighters, and also the same is true for the police.
Thank you, sir. Let me just make a couple comments, kind of come back on what you had to say, and I appreciate your comments, Commissioner.
Leadership in tough times. We're probably in the most difficult times I've ever served in city government, in my role in the school system, which has been, school systems all over the country and certainly the state of Kentucky, hit hard by this. It's hard to, I can't even imagine what it's like each day over there. I've got two granddaughters in school. One's a senior, would be graduating this spring. I fear all the time the classroom time they're missing, and that's a whole nother issue. But leadership untested, you're never sure of who they are, what their makeup is, and we're being tested. And I think the strength factor is how we're perceived, how we approach this as elected officials. We were elected with a sacred trust of the voters of Ashland. They felt like we were the people to bear the burdens and also share the glories that may happen during our term. We're temporary trustees. And I am very proud to serve with each one of you. You've reflected to me every day, every issue we've had. We may not have agreed totally. There have been a few disagreements, and we did the right thing. And I recognize that that's part of the healthy form of government we have, that there's no rubber stamp, and each of you are always able to stand your ground and state your case, and everybody shows respect. I'm proud to serve with you. It's a sacred trust we got, and each of us ensured the voters that we would do our best. And we vowed that strong leadership would prevail, and it is, it does. And I've been around a long time, and I've never seen anything quite like this, nor have my counterparts throughout the United States. We watch, pretty much watch our governor each day, and I'm very proud of his efforts, his commitment to keep us informed in our state and apprised of the state plan. There are things that we have to fall under. The governor makes those decisions, and we're gonna do our part to uphold those. And sometimes it's difficult on our people. I can safely say, we used to say that we have so many senior citizens in Ashland that we have a large percentage of our population who are not employed. They've done their part over the years and continue to do their part as retired citizens. Now we have another element of our city who would like to be at work right now, and due to the virus, they're unable to work, and all of us have expressed to one another, and I think here publicly, that we have a very strong fear that many of these people will never go back to work. Some of these small businesses may never survive. They may never recover. Well, let me just emphasize today, and I look forward to doing some other public service announcements where we can, try to support our people, encourage them. I will say this, that I'm not out and about publicly other than the neighborhood, walking the dogs and waving at my neighbors and so forth, but I will say that I couldn't be more proud of the city of Ashland and the county of Boyd, and how it is reflecting, in my opinion, it's reflecting in the percentages of problems that we're having with the coronavirus throughout the country and throughout the state of Kentucky. Let me say that, one death, one positive case is that one too many, but on a statewide basis, Ashland and Boyd County are really standing tall, I think, with following the guidelines and regulations. It's not to say that other communities like us aren't really following everything directly, but I can only speak for Ashland, and I'm convinced that our population is really doing the right thing. And conversely, we have less and less numbers than most people throughout the country, a city like us. I'm very proud of our people. It's difficult. It's difficult on everyone. And our school students, you know, think how hard it is on them. They would, the days they just soon not go to school are very few and far between. They would love to be in a classroom right now. The teachers would like to be teaching, and the parents would like to be working. And again, it's a situation that I've never seen before. And if you watch some of the experts, this morning I saw a doctor out of Minnesota who has written a book on viruses and germs long before this has hit us, and he seemed quite astute and quite intelligent about it. And unfortunately, to quote him, he said, we're kind of like in the second inning of a 9-inning game. And he feels that we're a long way off from any resolve on this. And one of the key factors that we hear about every day is testing. But he said, you know, there's so many different tests out there that are testing false positives as well as false negatives. And until we work together with the government and science closely to come up with the type of testing needed, that we're in future trouble. So everybody is talking about this coming back in the fall and through the winter months. Think of that. Think of that if that happens that way. This Board of Commissioners is faced with keeping our city, which belongs to us and our citizens. The city is it's an entity that is a working force for the public. And in the city of Ashland, they own this. It belongs to them. And our major goal as elected officials is their safety and health and welfare. And we'll continue to ensure that their health and welfare is protected by enforcing rules that are coming down to us, and those things that hopefully with this virus will keep them safer from it, or if they get it, we help them get through it. But also the normal operation in our city, of our police and fire, of our utility department, getting water to our people, our sanitation department, our street department, everyone that plays a role, and they're basically all employees of our citizens. And I think they behave that way. But it all belongs to them, and our best interests and security of all. We will continue to work hard to ensure the health and safety, but also in addressing the reductions, as Commissioner Clark referred to, the revenue reductions that are prevalent every day for us. We are a business, but we're a business of the people. But we too, like many of our homes in Ashland, have less revenue coming in, but the bills still come due. And for the city of Ashland to ensure public safety, to pay for chemicals, to pay for workers throughout our city on a daily basis, to keep our city operating, is going to cause us to reduce staff positions, watch at every expenditure, which our finance department, our city staff have been working very closely with our award-winning financial department, who are working tirelessly day and night to come up with a plan to, at the least, get our balanced budget between now and July 1. That's to finish this budget year. The next budget year is a whole new deal that we'll start working on. We're already working on it. All of you are seeing some figures and facts now. But our role is to keep Ashland operating, and we will do that. You know, from the president on down, the governor, we're all in this together. You see those signs all over stores, on TV every night. We are all in this together, and we have a very heavy part in it, to be the decision makers on how we proceed. And I'm confident that we will do that. We'll have detractors, as you do in anything, but you need to stand tall, and I only ask you all to continue to do what you've done since the day I took the oath of office with you. Do the right thing. We will continue to do the right thing for the citizens of Ashland. We'll do our best for the citizens of Ashland, and we'll treat every citizen the way we want to be treated. And we'll have our utmost interest and commitment to every citizen in our city. And I know that you all are on board with me. We'll have tougher decisions ahead, but let's do the right thing, and I know you will. One other thing I want to bring up today in talking daily, I just had a phone call from Judge Cheney before I came in here about a variety of things. We're going to meet next week with the mayor of Catlettsburg and talk about how jointly we can ensure a cooperative efforts from Ashland and Catlettsburg and our entire county. And that's how it ought to be. And we're going to put something together next week. I'll keep you informed minute to minute, and anything that gets written down, you're going to get it in your hands. But I want to bring up from one of the things that the judge and I talked about earlier in the week, and he had talked to the governor's office, and that's the census. You know, I know sometimes people don't pay close enough attention to the importance of our census that's every 10 years. And I think Boyd County as a whole has done very well, but we're only a little over half of our population as reported, about 50%, 51%. There are areas in Kentucky that 10, 12%, 15%, and I would, since we're on here, and I want to ask every entity to begin with, and I know the school system, I've really tried to make contacts there, and I've been able to, believe it or not. After 39 years there, I thought somebody would answer the phone for the mayor now. But since they didn't, I'm going to make a plea to the Ashland school system on their one call that I used so much when I was superintendent. Every time I closed school for snow, I would be a hero for the day. But I'm asking the school system, the Board of Education, superintendent, to put out a one call expressing to all the parents the importance of filling out their census form. The census form, according to my wife, took about 3 minutes to fill out, and and she did it on the internet. If you don't have internet service, if you don't have a computer to do it, there are other ways to do it. You can make a phone call to state government and let them know. You can call about any government office in Ashland, and as Commissioner Clark told me this morning, if you don't, they're probably going to come and knock on your door anyway.
Keep them from knocking on your door.
Yeah, now you may keep them from knocking on your door, but I hope that you will do that. You need to understand that for the next 10 years, communities like Ashland, states like Kentucky, will receive federal funding, whether it be direct funding, programs, grants, awards, whatever the case may be, based on our census. It's vital. There were times years ago I wasn't sure. I always filled out a census form, but I really wasn't sure how important it was, okay? Well, you know, serving in the school system as well as being the mayor, yeah, it's very important. It could mean millions of dollars for the city of Ashland, for the Ashland school system, for other public entities in Ashland, that the federal government gets an accurate as possible count of our census this year in Ashland and Boyd County. So please, churches, I know some churches have one call. I don't know how many of them do, but any way you can get the word out, please help us do that. It's vital that everyone gets accounted for. It will mean much to the revenues of the city, the county, and the state of Kentucky. I can't impress that upon you anymore. Huh? Yes, Commissioner Clark is going to give us the website. If you do have internet and you have a computer, please go on there and fill out your form. It's very simple. Go ahead.
My2020census.gov, so my2020census.gov.
Okay. And we're going to put that, appreciate my town here, we're going to put it on our website and get it out. It'll be available to people to find out. But please report your families to the federal government. Leadership in tough times, guys and ladies, and we've got to stand tall. And I know you will, and disregard the negative forces, and let's do the right thing for our citizens. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. I realize what I'm saying is probably going to be a little bit redundant given everything that you all have mentioned to this point, but I do think reiteration of some of these key points is critical. Ashland is no different than any other community in this nation right now in this state, and that's trying to deal with the loss of the revenue. It's very, for our citizens who may not understand it, it is crucial in the impact that that's having on us. Everything is being considered in our budget, from the top of the budget to the bottom of the budget. Every single thing is going to be considered and is being considered, and there's been a ton of work the staff has already done on that, again, led by finance, and they're, we're blessed to have two leaders in that department that have over 50 years of experience combined. So they know what normal times look like here, doing a lot of research with KLC, other national organizations to try to put a number on this and what that's going to look like for us. And this really is like trying to nail Jell-O to a wall at times. But to reiterate a point that you made, Mayor, when we look at the services that we provide our citizens, our goal is that when it comes to our safety, whether it's fire, police, or also our utilities, water and wastewater, that the changes that we're making, the adjustments that we're making will be transparent to our citizens. It's logical to think then in some of the other areas, parks, streets, there will be changes and there will be impacts on those services. We announced something recently in an effort to get after that, and we're going to continue as these decisions are made. And again, these aren't my decisions, these aren't the staff decisions, these are recommendations we will make to you all to get your decision on those, like you said, Mayor, very tough decisions that are coming up. But everything is on the table. We will not be out of step in our recommendations to you, Mayor and Commissioners, on anything that would go against state or federal guidance, whether that's an executive order from the state or federal, or even if it's just strongly recommended guidance. We're tracking that, and we want to stay in line with that. I do want to publicly say I appreciate you and the Commissioner's leadership to not have knee-jerk reactions on things that are going on. We do want to make fact-based and data-based decisions and recommendations, and that's the goal of the staff. And with that, I did want to publicly thank the staff. There's been some incredibly long hours. We coordinate daily with the senior leaders on the staff, and to make these recommendations and to come up with this final list of recommendations that will fit our budget and what we can do. So, Mayor, Commissioners, unless you have any questions, that's really, I just want to reemphasize the points that you all had made previously. Any questions for me?
Thank you, Manager.
Ready for old business?
I am.
All right.
Old business item A.
Second reading and adoption of an ordinance entitled, An Ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky adopting the amended medical care plan and summary plan description for city employees and for the fire department union, adopted by Ordinance 46, 2012, and previously amended to meet the requirements of the Families First Coronavirus Response Act.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed, like sign. Item B.
Second reading and adoption of an ordinance entitled, An Ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky, authorizing and directing the mayor to submit the fiscal year 2020 grant application to the Federal Transit Administration on behalf of the Ashland bus system for operating costs, preventative maintenance, paratransit services, maintenance, payroll, capital expenditures, and CARES Act expenses and further authorizing and directing the mayor to execute any and all documents necessary for the implementation of the grant.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Item C,
Second reading and adoption of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and directing the mayor to accept the proposal of Blue Water Kentucky LLC in an amount not to exceed $40,000 to conduct a water quality study for the Department of Utilities.
Second.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Any other old business? Consent agenda.
A resolution of the City of Ashland, Kentucky adopting, authorizing, and approving the course of action presented by the city manager on the items appearing on the consent agenda for the regular special meeting of the Board of City Commissioners of April 23rd, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign.
I recuse myself.
New business, item A.
This would be an emergency clause, first and second reading and final adoption of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and directing the mayor to submit the program year 2019 amended action plan adopted by ordinance number 64, series of 2019, as amended by ordinance number 109, series of 2019, ordinance number 149, series of 2019, and ordinance number 33, series of 2020, for a community development block grant to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development in the amount of $561,481, plus carryover funding in the amount of $1,089,482, and COVID-19 funds in the amount of $337,555,000 to redistribute funding allocations and, upon acceptance of said application from HUD, to execute on behalf of the City of Ashland an agreement with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to enable the city to undertake these activities and/or any and all other documents associated with the grant submittal, declaring an emergency to exist to allow two readings of this ordinance on the same day.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Would you want to run through those, at least that list and allocations that we were making with this ordinance right now?
Yeah, I think that probably, City Manager, you want to do that, or do you want to?
I have to read my sideline real quick, but
Just as they're listed on the agenda.
Oh, I can run through them for you. Yeah, sure, fine.
just one note on this. This will require HUD approval. So some of the things that Jim will mention or Lorraine will talk about, this is us signing to get HUD approval on this. So it'll be a matter of them doing that approval in a couple weeks before we can get some of this going.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Okay.
Mayor, this will have an additional $10,000 of funding to provide case management, utilities, liability insurance, and food pantry expenses. CARES, total of $40,000. Shelter of Hope, an additional $12,000 of funding to provide case management, utilities, liability insurance, and food pantry expenses. Total funding $17,000. Safe Harbor, an additional $12,000 of funding to provide utilities, liability insurance, and food pantry expenses. Total funding of $17,000. Community Kitchen, additional $21,000 of funding to provide staff salaries, utilities, liability insurance, and supplies for meal preparation. Total funding of additional $26,000. Hillcrest Bruce, additional $22,000 of funding to provide for utilities, liability insurance, and food pantry. Total funding of $40,000. Senior Center, an additional $11,000 of funding to provide for utilities, liability insurance, and food pantry. Total funding of $25,000. And ACDC, additional $5,000 of funding to provide for utilities and liability insurance. Total funding of $12,000. Salvation Army, $10,000 of funding to provide for utilities. Total funding of $10,000. And then the City of Ashland Service Programs, Utility Assistance Program, $75,000 to assist 500-plus families. Clean Start Kits and Supplies, $5,000 to assist 100-plus families. Food boxes, $5,000 to assist 100-plus families. Personal protection equipment, $5,000 to the production of 2,000 units. Operational expenses, payroll of City of Ashland employee to manage service projects for $40,000. Code enforcement project decreased from $40,000 to $36,000. Ashland Community Center project decreased from $362,364 to $0. DeBoard Terrace infrastructure decreased $73,000 from $234,555 to $358,605. I said increased, not decreased. Powered Mills infrastructure increased $248,592 from $479,041 to $746,633. Senior Center flooring increased $58 from $11,868 to $11,926. Minority business loans increased $10,350 from $170,823 to $181,173. And Shelter of Hope floors increased $33,364 from $14,067 to $47,431. And this is all related to the current coronavirus crisis, and that's the basis for the emergency declaration, the need to obtain this funding as quickly as possible to assist our citizens.
So, and all these agencies have to turn in a separate budget for these items for HUD and all that. This may not be appropriate right now, but I'm going to throw it in anyway. I don't know if y'all saw on the internet where one of our senators said cities should just bankrupt. I don't know the full gist. I did read the article under it, but which I don't get that, of course. I don't understand all that, but it triggers me to think about a lot of businesses and what kind of, do we have a manager, maybe to you, and maybe you can get back to us, but do we have any kind of accounting system that we know how many of our businesses are being helped? I mean, I'm not trying to tabulate them. I'm just saying, you read about, I read about some businesses, other places, and they've got some money where they can pay salaries for a while and all that. And then they had some business owners, small towns like us, that said, well, they applied, they called, they haven't gotten anything. So I don't know how that works. It's not our responsibility coming from the federal government, except if we can assist in any way. And I don't know if there's an avenue where the city can be more of a catalyst for all of our small businesses that are shut down, and maybe find out how many of them are actually applied and are getting help. You know something?
A little something.
Okay.
Go ahead.
You probably know as much as I know, but I do know on the city's website right now, there is a survey from Community and Economic Development, because I've shared it a million times, for our small businesses to fill out that survey that is asking, have you applied?
Okay.
Have you received it? What can we do to help you? All of those sorts of
Okay.
things. I know that's been out there. They've not gotten a huge amount of response.
We haven't got a lot of response.
Right, and I'll verify that. I believe everything Commissioner Clark just said to be true. And then also, if you need some assistance with it, I think was the equal part of that message, please contact us. That was put out by Economic Development, or CED.
And Mayor, I do know from speaking to some small business owners, I know personally of some business owners that told me they have applied and they have received approvals. Whether or not they've actually got their funding yet, I don't know. But there are small businesses in our community that are taking advantage of the programs that are available.
I do know one that has, it was a direct deposit for them to keep payroll going and all that. So I know of one, and that's kind of why I broached this, so let's say they fill a survey out and it comes to us, manager, and they say, I've got businesses around, or I talked to friends of mine who have businesses and they did get money and I haven't got mine yet. What can we do? What kind of a step do we take then at that point to try to get information to them? When they apply, where do they actually apply?
Small Business Administration.
In Washington?
There are online, you're able to do that online.
Yeah, I
for
knew
small
they
businesses.
could do that. I just want to make sure where. And so, we have so many distressed small businesses, and some of them, I don't know, there are so many, there are one or two people, they put their life savings in these little shops and put all their time and treasures to try to make this go. And I'm wondering if does it make any difference on these applications, how large or small these businesses are?
I'll get feedback from Mr. Pullum and see
Okay.
what the response on that has been and how they've been able to facilitate or not based on that response.
I don't want, I want all of our commissioners to get these reports along with me, because I want us to be able to make personal contacts ourselves to let those businesses know if you hear something or if you know something that we can help you with, even if you've turned that survey in.
I think on our page too, there are links to all of those resources as well, if I'm not mistaken. I kind of help
And Mayor, these procedures, that at least those that I've looked at with some of the business owners I know, are fairly streamlined for what you'd expect from the federal government. So I think we should urge the small business owners not to be intimidated by the process. It's probably not as bad as they think it's going to be. They just need to get in there and apply, because, I mean, the worst thing that happens is if you don't qualify, they'll tell you don't qualify, but you certainly should be asking.
And really, what is happening now, I think they're supposed to vote today for the second round of that funding, and they've relaxed, because a lot of what I have heard from different small business owners, you know, if you are a small business owner and you're the only one that works there and you don't pay yourself, then you don't have any record of, you don't have a payroll. And so a lot of those people were declined in the first round, but I think the regulations in the new set will help those people.
Because we have a lot of businesses like that.
We do.
Well, it's $484 billion that is supposed to be approved today by the Congress. And, you know, my advice to anyone watching or paying attention to our website or anything, as Counselor, as you so aptly put it, I think this is a different situation than any they've ever done before, but with all kinds of red tape and who knows when. I know this was one business that I know already got it. It took about 10 days. And it was in their account to pay their employees and keep them on the job and all that. And they're much like the business I'm talking about in my opening about they're like city. Revenue's not coming in, but these employees trying to feed their families and are still trying to do their job from home or whatever from their car, and the money's not there. They're estimating that $484 billion will last about 10 days.
I just got feedback from Chris. We've actually had 22 responses to that. CED has talked to every one of those, and they've primarily been helping out with the applications, also with assistance with lease and loan restructuring has been the majority of their efforts.
I thought he might respond. I wouldn't have directed at you, Chris, but I knew you would probably respond. But keep us in the loop as commissioners, because we many times are dealing face to face with from 6 feet with some of these very business people, and I do get calls. I know my commissioners do too. And you made a great point too, Jim. I think this is different. They need to go for it.
Yeah.
No matter what, they need to go for this, because as Commissioner Clark said, I think they did revise some things.
They did, and
in this
you
allotment.
understand that there's more than one program, and there's a paycheck protection program, and then there's an emergency injury disaster loan, and all of those are forgivable, and there's different parameters, and the EIDL, which is the emergency disaster thing, didn't seem to get as much play in the last round, so I'm always telling people go there first, because it's basically $10,000 grant right up front while you're sort of working your way through the paycheck protection.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is what I do too, so I have to pay attention a lot to it.
What you do.
And you can get approved for the EIDL and the paycheck protection, and so.
PPP is what they call it.
PPP, well, I'll just do that. You can get both, and then you can roll those into one lump sum at the end. So.
Well, you know, from not day one, but certainly when this started being discussed to try to help keep these people, you know, I thought I wasn't alive, okay, the WPA and the CCC, but those were plans put together to get things done governmentally. You know, get things done in cities and states all across the country, and employ people that needed jobs, out of work, whatever, and you pay them government to do government jobs that benefit all the citizens in an area. And I don't think we're out of whack in taking a look at that at some point in time. I mean, when these scientists are saying this thing, it may go into fall, winter, next spring. I can't imagine. I just can't imagine it. But I think something else has to kick in where people, a lot of people want to work. They want to do something to attain funds, and they could do a lot of constructive, important things throughout the country if they implemented those programs again. You know, my wife has said several times, well, where do they keep coming up with this money? I said, vote. They just vote it. You know, you don't go beyond the vote to see where the printers are printing heavily every day, I guess. But, you know, at some point, all of us will be paying the bills, you know, to the federal government in some fashion. And why not pay it in taxes on your paycheck from the federal government doing constructive activities throughout the United States? And I know there's enough out there for people to be employed in doing it. It's just a thought. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Motion to suspend the rules. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Final adoption.
Aye.
Motion is second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Two abstentions. Okay.
Mayor, just to reiterate, that link is on our website. We've had that on Facebook too. So for any citizens here or small businesses that may not have taken advantage of that assistance and what we can do to help, just for them to know that.
I'd like to know how many businesses,
Speak up.
yeah, I'd like to know how many businesses total have a business license so we can gauge participation and feedback versus actually what we've got hanging out there.
We can get that.
Okay.
Yeah, would you get it to us? All of us copy that? And maybe if you could on that same sheet, if we can figure, I don't know how we'll figure out if anybody report to us or we know who's applied for it, but at least we know the ones that inquired. And I don't know if they got any funds or not, but like you said, Mr. Moore, keep the ball rolling. Send it in. Make them say no. And then send it in again.
Exactly.
Okay, item B.
Item B is emergency clause, first and second reading and final adoption of an ordinance entitled, An Ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky adopting the 2020 Community Development Block Grant Citizen Participation Plan for the Department of Community and Economic Development Programs as required by the Department of Housing and Urban Development, repealing ordinance number 36, series of 2020, and declaring an emergency to exist to allow two readings of this ordinance on the same day.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to suspend the rules.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Final adoption.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item C.
An emergency clause, first and second reading and final adoption of an ordinance entitled, An Ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky adopting the 2020 to 2024 City of Ashland Community Development Block Grant Consolidated Plan and the 2020 Annual Plan for the Department of Community and Economic Development, repealing ordinance number 37, 2020, and declaring an emergency to exist to allow two readings of this ordinance on the same day.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Final adoption.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item D.
First reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, An Ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky, requiring the registration of residential housing units within the City of Ashland, and providing a penalty for the violation of the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
It's the table.
Mayor, I would like to make a motion to table this item until the next meeting. I think that we need to put out a little more information for citizen input for this one and the next one, and I'll say it again in the next one as well, before we move forward with these, especially where we're not allowed, where we can't have public meetings.
Sure. So you're going to table the next one, or ask for a table on the next one?
Yes, please.
They're sort of companion ordinances.
Sure.
And what I recommend, Mayor, is what we'll do is we'll post the full ordinance online on our website and also on Facebook. We'll have a link back to the description that Corporation Counsel provided during the last BOC meeting, and we'll have an email address on there for folks to provide their comments to us for consideration before we put it back on for a first reading.
Okay. And so, for clarity, our last meeting where a counselor did an excellent job explaining the need for both these ordinances with the legalese appropriate for you and kind of the framework of how it's supposed to operate, which we all know we need these in some fashion.
And so that was on April 9th. So if you are watching this, you can go back to My Town or go to the city website and watch that explanation from our city attorney, Jim Moore, on these two ordinances, which will give you a lot of clarity for how they're supposed to operate. And the motion to table this one and the next one, let's do this one first, is so we give them more time to do that, to respond. Those of you who have one unit, 100 units, whatever the case may be. All in favor?
Well, we just need, we need the second on the motion to table.
Motion on the table. All in favor? Aye. And the next one being?
Item E is the first reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky, enacting regulations to promote the abatement of public nuisances and providing a penalty for the violation of this ordinance by owners of properties who permit the reoccurrence of public nuisance activities on their properties without taking reasonable actions to abate the misuse of their properties."
Move to table.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, so please try to watch that, but you may need to do it again at the final, or when we bring these back up, Mr. Moore, in case.
We'll always be available to answer any questions that you have, or if we get comments or questions from the public, I can try and address those in the next meeting as well.
Great, okay. Item F.
First reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky, authorizing and approving change order number 2 between the City of Ashland, Kentucky and GRW Engineers, Inc. regarding their contract to provide engineering services for the Pollard Mills Drainage Improvement Project, making no change to the project total of $421,800, but redistributing funds within the contract as for the Department of Community and Economic Development."
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, like sign. Item G.
First reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky, adopting Amendment 11 for the city employees and Amendment 10 for the Fire Department Union for the City of Ashland, Kentucky Medical Care Plan and Summary Plan adopted by Ordinance 46, 2012 and previously amended to include telehealth services."
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just want to clear, this is not, the only thing we're doing here is adding a benefit.
Correct, Commissioner. This allows, which previously would not, given the crisis we're in now, doctors to use technology to, in essence, examine and treat people by telecommunication facilities and be covered by our insurance.
Okay, just wanted that on the record.
Okay, thank you,
No
Commissioner.
additional cost.
No.
No, and it's not a reduction at all of benefits. It's actually extending the benefit because many doctors are trying to use this capability now for certain types of things, given the social distancing protocols and so on. I think city manager may have already done one.
Not on the city's plan,
But
but
on-
through the VA.
Yeah.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, like sign. Item H.
First reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky, authorizing and approving change order number 2 between the City of Ashland, Kentucky and Frederick and May Construction Company, Inc. regarding their contract for the Pollard Mills Drainage Improvement Project, increasing the contract amount by $2,992 for the Department of Community and Economic Development."
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Item I.
First reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, "A Series Bond Ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky, authorizing the issuance of $10,500,000 principal amount of water and sewer system revenue bonds, Series 2020A, which amount may be increased or decreased by up to $1,050,000, designating the paying agent and registrar in respect thereof, approving the preparation of a preliminary and final official statement in respect thereof, providing for the sale of such bonds to the lowest and best bidder, and authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute documents on behalf of the city."
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I have a
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'd like to start a discussion just a little bit. You know that in the last budget session, when we talked about bonding money, I was probably the most vocal about not bonding money. And I just want to, for the sake of public clarification, just ask you a few questions so that I can sort of come off of my stand of not bonding. I realize we need it. These are projects that will make sure that our water gets out to where it needs to be, when it needs to be, in the way it needs to be, and as well as wastewater. So for the public's sake, will you clarify for them why this bond is needed right now in this moment where we are so desperately seeking ways to cut funds while we would borrow $10.5 million.
Thank you, Commissioner. The city has a lot of utility work that, and I want to choose my descriptor carefully here, that's crucial. And we have more work to be done than we have funds to do it with. It's one of the reasons why we are getting the survey on our cost of public services, because to make sure that we do have that budgeted right and that we are charging the right amount, so that this is sustainable, so that in the future we don't, a cost of services study that's going on right now that you all are aware of. We don't have the funds in our utility to cover the work that needs to be done. To be frank, we have about $16 million worth of work that falls into that category. This is not just something that was put together on the back of a napkin. This is our city utilities director, our city engineer, working closely with the superintendents and all the staff down to the lowest level, if you will, to determine what is crucial and what needs to be done so that we don't lose services to the city. You all are aware what we've gone through. At the very, very top of this list is the water filters and the water treatment plant. You know what we've battled through over the last year and a half with the xylem filters. That's at the very top of the list. Number 2 on it is SCADA, for all the reasons we've discussed. And finance worked really hard to get to a place that it's something that we can afford long term. That's the number they came up with in discussions with bond counsel. And so we've got a prioritized list that we need to get after.
Does this get us what we need?
It doesn't get all the $16 million.
I know it doesn't get us $16 million.
And frankly, we're continuing to, again, everything is up in the air because of the COVID crisis that's going on right now. The prioritized list of 1 through 16, there are 3 water line replacement projects on there that are not what's shown in the fiscal note here, that are actually, if there's, I think it's 16 priorities, I think there's 7, 8, 9. They're not on this list. However, the city is still dedicating $1 million a year to do pipeline replacement. The grand total of those 3 projects are Simpson, Belmont, and Highway 23. You all remember the worst impact we've had on our citizens is when we lose that line on 23. It affects, we estimate, between 5,000 and 7,000 citizens. And so that is a higher priority on the list, but given this bond and the $1 million that we're doing in utilities, we'll get after that in the next 3 years if we put the vast majority of that money into those 3 projects. If those 3 projects get put up higher, then there's other things lower on the list that we take risk with. And specifically, one I can think of is the need for an additional storage tank we're targeting on 13th Street. Years ago, the decision was made to abandon underground storage tanks, and we don't have the capacity that we had a couple of years ago to do that. In discussions with utilities and the city engineer, we realized that's crucial also. There's nothing on this list that's not crucial. There's great debates on what should be where, but the approach, the way this is written, is that those 3 water line projects, which again you all know, especially you and Commissioner Perkins from the Capital Projects Committee, the discussions we've had on those and the redundancy that gives us. But it's all crucial. And so that's why I think you make a great point. With everything that's going on and the impact that we have on our budget, on one hand, it's a great time to get great rates. That's one really good thing. And again, a lot of confidence in finance's ability to get us the best rate and the best deal and something that's sustainable that doesn't put us at risk of not having a balanced budget.
Well, we collectively, and I don't want to speak for all of us, but I will for just a second, are dedicated to making sure that we do repair our water lines and we make all of this progress because we understand what it means. We're living in the days where commissions before us didn't, and we don't want to do that to Ashland's future. And so, like I said, I just wanted to get that clarity from you for our citizens' sake. It's $10.5 million, and we're talking about cutting the budget all the way across the board. And so just want to make sure that that message is loud and clear, that this is not something that we're going into lightly, or it's not unnecessary.
But Commissioner, it's part of, I think, comments that the mayor made, it's indicating to the citizens we're prioritizing the essential functions of local government, and one of the most, probably the most important, which is to provide clean, safe drinking water and sanitation and sewer services. And even though you're in incredibly difficult times, I think the city manager would agree that's not something we're willing to compromise on. We've got to do that.
Yeah, I always say this when we have the discussions on utilities. I always lead with my confidence in our city water. I drink it every single day. We're producing really good water, given some historical challenges down at that water plant. I think you're going to start seeing some inspection reports in the near future that talk about our disinfectant byproducts, our chlorine levels that are going to be very encouraging, which you'll see in our annual report, for example. And it's through a lot of time, dedication, effort, resources to improve these things. I'm personally optimistic when we get the new filters in. We're going to have a great idea of where we're at on production. I know something that just absolutely drives you all, and I think the warrior for reminding us this is Michelle Beach on the water loss, for example. Mayor and I have a lot of great discussions on the Venturi meter down there, and that's impact that's going to be taken care of in the SCADA. There's points right now where we don't know what we don't know on water loss, because there's some things that have been neglected for a really long time. And so a combination of this and other efforts, we're headed in the right direction. I'm confident with that. You all know from the Blue Water study, that is not a, hey, we're doing $1 million for 2 or 3 years and it's going to fix the problem. This is, again, remember what it took Louisville to get from 1977 until maybe 5 years ago, where they're one of the best water systems in the nation. But it was a dedication of resources to that. And that's where we're heading. That's why we're doing the rate study, and that's why we're recommending very tough decisions to you all like this.
Thank you.
And obviously, we're under state water quality. We don't want to pay the state $50,000 a day to not have the best quality water you can possibly have, and that's a big thing. I'd like to put a little add-on to and appreciate your comments on that, Manager. The work that we've been having done by our own people over the last year and a half, where we've allocated $1 million a year to repair water lines. And I know you guys got on me, and where it was still cold weather, but the lack of water line breaks, and it isn't always based upon freezing weather. These lines are down deep, and unfortunately, and that's what caused the great expense. But it's a strain and a stress and all that, and we have done a pretty daggone good job of lining out the areas in an orderly fashion of where should we start first, which we did, and we're moving right along. And I think the quality of our lines we're improving that all the time. And I hand that to our existing utility workers are out there while they're taking care of other things for residents. When they're not tied up on that, they're putting new water lines in. And it's all part of that big puzzle with the things that we don't understand as lay people so much, that cost so much for a new water treatment operation, but they're necessary in the eyes of the state and the federal government to ensure for many years to come that we have the highest quality water possible. And I'm still around, Manager. I've been drinking it my whole life. I think I'm okay.
Mayor, it's not a linear problem, and as we've discussed in here before, our breaks per mile per year is embarrassing compared to what the recommendations are in AWWA. A lot of those breaks are on the smaller lines. The projects that you see on the engineering and utilities list are huge cost projects. And we analyze and reanalyze, are these projects we can do? Are these projects that are best to have contracted out for the sake of time, all those crews that do? You think of the work that we've done this year, 29th Street, Third Circle Prospect is totally different. They were breaking all the time, and I forget the name of the one street that was done up in your neighborhood.
Yeah, and the other thing is, it's like the police department. You see something, say something, about it. All of us, I'm out walking my dogs there on Thompson Drive below me, and I called you about it or texted you. There's obviously a water leak underground, close to the street, which has got to be on our side. I mean, it's gushing out, but 12 feet of ground is soaked and the water's coming out. The houses are, the back of houses on up the hill, they don't even know what's happening. It's not on their property, it's on the right of way. People right across the street, I would have thought somebody would have reported it. But I really think it might be right across the street from a vacant house that's for sale. I'm not sure. I think so. But anyway, and I'll let the city manager know that immediately. People in their neighborhoods, they see water coming out of the ground somewhere, they need to call the city real quick. I mean, that's their tax dollars at waste, right then. And I think that when we start delving into this 2 years ago, it's frightening to know how many gallons we think we're losing every day. And that shouldn't happen. I mean, you're going to have, any of these consultants come in here, they tell you, but they give you a percentage figure that you're going to have, and ours was astronomical. But I assure you today, it isn't near what it was, and we're putting teeth in our program to correct that, and our citizens are going to benefit from that and into the future. This is an investment in the next 50 years that we're doing at the water plant that is necessary, and should have been done before. Wasn't. It's in front of us. We're standing tall and going to take it. And to echo what you said, it seems kind of a contradictory statement that we're in the midst of looking at every way we can to reduce and save revenues because they're not coming in, and then we're going to float a $10 million bond.
But I do want to speak to that too. In business, when there's a liquidity crisis, lines of credit being opened ease the burden of having to fund your day-to-day operations. And so that's basically and essentially what we're doing here. It allows us to continue to pay our police and our fire with our general fund money so that we can focus on the work that our citizens are expecting us to focus on, which is our water system.
Quality of life issues.
Yes.
And that's probably, after police and fire, then the quality of your water is the next one up. And we're addressing that for the future and for kids that haven't been born yet.
And Mayor, last thing, you said standing tall, and I agree with you. There's some things that, to me, were clear lack of investment. There's other things where investment was done right and things, I think the Xylem system was just, it went through its warranty period for a variety of other challenges that we had in the plant. We needed a different system. And I really think that I've got so much confidence in our utilities sections and their expertise and their knowledge, not just to repair the lines, but also to triage and prioritize what's most important. And that's what you see reflected on this list, and it's a crucial bond.
Well, we thank you and your staff and the water department, sewer department, everybody involved in these improvements. That's item I. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, like sign. Item J.
Reading and adoption of a municipal order entitled Municipal Order of the City of Ashland, Kentucky, authorizing and directing the mayor to execute an interlocal cooperation agreement between the City of Ashland, Kentucky, City of Russell, Kentucky, authorizing Ashland and Russell police officers to exercise their powers throughout both cities in order to combat illegal activity.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any other new business?
Not that I'm aware of.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We're adjourned. Thank you, guys.